for Damian Lillard, Giannis, Middleton, and Lillard. We know how that worked out. They lost in the first round. I know Giannis was hurt. They didn't look good at any point last season. And then there's the Phoenix Suns, who had KD, Beal, and Booker. And that flamed out spectacularly, getting swept by the Timberwolves in the first round. Which leads me to Paul George in the latest big three. I'm using air quotes for the radio audience because I don't know that it's a big three. I like Paul George a lot. I've always loved his game. I'm on record. You can look it up. I mean, this guy at Indiana, oh my goodness. He was so good, went toe-to-toe with LeBron, smooth game, inside out, let his game do the talking until he got kind of in his head and called himself Playoff P, which hasn't quite worked out great. I like Paul George a lot. He came to the Clippers, and they basically did nothing with Kawhi Leonard. I know they won 2 playoff series in 5 years, something insane like that. I know you can blame the injuries, but is Paul George really a superstar in this league? I actually was going to pitch the staff. I didn't even tell them this. If we do a top 20 players, is Paul George definitely top 20 in the league? I mean, all NBA right there is 15 alone. Paul George is fringe all NBA. I don't know if he's a top 20 guy. We could maybe break it down tomorrow. Yeah, I'll be back, hopefully. And I just don't know if this is going to work out for Philadelphia. Okay? The Big Three era is over. And why is that over? Because you've got to round out your roster with minimum guys. Go look at the Bucks roster. It's 3 dudes, maybe a fourth if you want to count whoever their fourth guy would be. Bobby Portis is still there, I think. Like, who do they have after that? Bucks don't have anybody. It's looking bleak in Milwaukee, sorry. And then you look at the Phoenix Suns, and folks, that roster is really bad. They've got a poo-poo platter of minimum players to go with KD, Booker, and Beal. And nobody thinks, I don't even know if they're top 8 in the West. So now you go to the Sixers, and you're like, okay, well, they're in the East, Jay, they'll be fine. And also, Tyrese Maxey is young and ascending, and Tyrese Maxey is a nice player. Paul George, really good wing. I don't know if he's a top 20 player. And then there's Joel Embiid, who was the MVP 2 years ago. And we know he's a terrific player. He's always hurt. By the way, Paul George and Joel Embiid, 2 of the most injured players in the last 5 years in the NBA playoffs. So you're telling me that's a big three? I won't even get into the machinations of what was the Paul George market like? Well, the Knicks could have had him and said, no, we're good. We're going to go with no-time all-star Mikal Bridges and bet on chemistry over star power. And, you know, allegedly the Clippers were talking to the Warriors about trading Paul George there. But then it comes out that the Clippers were never serious. They're not keeping Paul George in the West. So if you take the Warriors out and the Knicks said no, and the Orlando Magic, you know, they had the cap space and all of a sudden they use it on KCP. Seriously, they gave him $66 million. Maybe they got wind Paul George wasn't going to pick Orlando, but Orlando didn't even make an offer to Paul George. And so essentially, Philly fell ass backwards into Paul George. That's how they ended up getting their 3rd star. It's not like there was this race for Paul George and he had to take 6 meetings because nobody has cap space. It doesn't work anymore. The math doesn't add up. And I'll end with this. And I like Paul George. He's a smooth player. He's a really nice guy. He appears by all accounts. And this is probably going to come off a little harsh, but this is just real talk, and Paul George, get ready for it. In all the big threes that we've seen that come up short, somebody is the fall guy. Somebody gets blamed. Somebody has to take a step back. Whether it's Chris Bosh with the Heatles, going from like a 24-10 guy in Toronto to, he's spotting up in the corner and he's like a 16-10 guy. Kevin Love in Cleveland. Remember what he was in Minnesota? Analytics darling. I think he was like 25-11 in Minnesota. Stats have to come back. You're playing with LeBron. And you look at some of these big threes. Somebody's got to sacrifice. And I'll ask you this, Paul George. Are you willing to sacrifice? Because I'm telling you right now, Tyrese Maxey, they love him in Philadelphia. He's a homegrown guy. He's a young talent who is big-time ascending in this league. He might be on the Anthony Edwards track for all we know. He will not, Tyrese Maxey, he will not be taking a step back. Do you think Joel Embiid is going to be taking a step back? Joel Embiid, beloved in Philadelphia. Probably not on the level of Kelsey and Hurts, but they love Embiid. He's bulletproof. The guy doesn't show up. Go look at what happened against the Hawks. Go look at what happened even more recently against the Celtics when they were up 3-2 and totally blew that. Embiid no-show. And he's bulletproof. He doesn't take any hits anywhere. Paul George, you're going to be the fall guy. They're going to come after you. Well, Paul George didn't defend. He couldn't defend the wings. Paul George's offense, he shot 4 of 16. Paul George, I hope you're ready for that because it's tough. They're going to blame someone. And unfortunately, Paul, it's probably going to be you. End of the Big Three era is disappointing. It had a great run. And now we usher in the 2+1 or 2 or 3. But good luck to the Sixers. I will, at some point in the next 2 days, break down what I think are the top 8 in the East. And the Sixers will barely crack my top 4. I'm telling you, watch out for Indiana. Just, Pacers are going to be spicy. So Alex Curry, I am excited for so far. NBA free agency's been fun.
It's been like beautiful chaos. We got some
unexpectedly, but then I'm in San Diego over the weekend and my phone starts blowing up. LeBron is going to take less than the max. Lakers are going to get free agents. And I'm doing a victory lap like you haven't seen. Folks, I'm telling my kids, guys, I nailed this take. It was so good. And they look at me, Dad, can we go get gelato? Yeah, like, can we go get some more ice cream? They don't care. And then I text the staff here, this might have been my greatest take in 2024. Feeling good. Oh, and I know all the dopey social media accounts that follow this show, and criticize us when we whiff. They're going to give me props for nailing this, right? I felt great about this LeBron take. And then it comes out, well, LeBron wants 4 or 5 guys. And slowly but surely, over the weekend, they start coming off the list. James Harden, not coming to Lakers. Jonas Valanciunas, he went to the Wizards. And then the big one, Klay Thompson. That one hurt. That stung. Klay Thompson spurns the Lakers' advances for the Mavs. And at that point, it's, oh, damn, this is depressing. The Lakers aren't going to get better. Their only signing was Max Christie. Somehow he got $8 million a year from the Lakers. So all of a sudden, LeBron looked heroic for like a 72-hour window, and then we get the news this morning right before the show, LeBron staying with the Lakers on a 2-year max deal. Womp, womp, sad trombone. It happens. LeBron tried. It was a valiant effort, and the Lakers end up with nobody. And now the question turns to, well, does nobody want to play with LeBron James? Is the Lakers brand damaged? Danny Hurley rejected them. Now free agents are giving him the Heisman. Or is Rob Pelinka just really bad at his job? And it's probably a little bit of all three, right? I mean, listen, you can't totally blame Klay Thompson for saying, yeah, I think I'm going to go to the Mavs because they got a better chance at the title and they were just in the finals last year. And unequivocally, they're better than the Lakers. So you can't totally blame Klay Thompson, even though LeBron allegedly called Klay to recruit him. James Harden, I mean, why is he leaving the Clippers? It's his show now, right? Paul George, Clippers very clearly did not want him. We'll get to Paul George shortly. And essentially, James Harden's like, oh, damn, we got a new arena? We're going to be on TV all the time? Kawhi's probably going to miss half the season because that's what he does. And no Paul George? This is old school James Harden. I'm going to be rocking 20, 25 shots a game. Why would he go to the Lakers where he's going to be like the third banana to AD and LeBron? Obviously stay with the Clippers. The one that was kind of a slap in the face was Valanciunas picking the Wizards, the lowly Wizards. I mean, the dregs of the league. They're going to be tanking for Cooper Flagg. But, I'm sure LeBron was kind of hurt because you need somebody to guard Jokic as Nuggets have extinguished the Lakers the last 2 playoff runs. And I guess I kind of sort of am having to take like a positive reaction to this. And I know people are going to be upset because everybody wants to take shots at LeBron and hammer the Lakers. But hear me out, okay? What if the Lakers dodged a bullet by not landing Klay Thompson? Is that possible? Is it possible the Lakers dodged a depreciating asset in Klay Thompson? I know he had moments last season. I believe it was April he went off and Klay had a really, really good month. It was like 8 or 9 games. But listen, between the pouting, the benching, I don't know if it was over his contract or he's just unhappy with the demise of the dynasty. Klay had some pretty rotten moments last year, and I won't even bring up the 0 for 10 to end the season in the play-in game against the Kings. So it's possible the Lakers dodged a bullet. And I'm going to hit you guys with a bit of a truth bomb here. I looked at the Lakers roster right before coming on the show. This kind of surprised me. They have 2 guys over the age of 30 on the entire roster. 2, AD and LeBron. That's it. This is a young team. So good news, big picture, macro. Hey, Lakers, they're building something. They brought in a young, smart coach in J.J. Redick to relate to the young guys. That's a good news. The bad news is, of course, they're probably not contending for a title with this team next year. Now, they won 47 games, which is nice, but A, it's in the West, and B, they didn't get out of the first round, which I think points to a larger story in the league, and I'll pivot to this, is the end of the Big Three era in the NBA. It's over. Kaput. Done. It had a good run. R.I.P. You can write the tombstone if you want. But there are no more Big Threes in the NBA. It's officially done. And the Big Three had an amazing run, okay? Remember, you go back, Parker, Ginobili, Duncan, they kind of ushered it in the early 2000s. And then you had KG, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen. Big Threes were in vogue. They kind of started the super teams. And then LeBron's like, okay, let me go create the Heatles with Wade, and I'll go add Bosh, and we got our Big Three. Then LeBron goes back to Cleveland, another Big Three. Then the Warriors get their Big Three with Curry and Clay at the time and KD. Big Threes were what the league, they were driving everything. They're driving force behind the success of the league. And about 10 teams mattered, and every summer you'd see fans of about those 10 teams. How can we rejigger the roster so we can add a third star and, become one of the super teams in the league? Super teams were hot. And the NBA said, no. This ain't good. We don't want 10 teams relevant. We want parity. And the socialists in the NBA, sorry, I had to make a political reference. I am all for equality of opportunity. I'm not for equality of outcome, which is what the NBA wants. But the NBA is kind of winning. Last 6 years, 6 different NBA champions. And if you look around the league, folks, there are 2 Big Threes that before the Sixers added Paul George. That's it. There's really 2